It's my pleasure now to introduce Michelle Caldier, who was stuck in traffic, but now she's here, and we were looking forward to hearing your message on your campaign. Good luck.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and I'm super excited that Representative Griffey was here, that he got to talk to you guys so that I could have a little bit of time to get here. Thank you everyone for being here today. I represent the 26th district, which is West Bremerton, Port Orchard, Keep Peninsula, and Gig Harbor, and it neighbors the district that Dan Griffey's in. And we actually came in together into the legislature, and that was, 8 years ago. We both got elected, and the interesting part is we were both running against incumbents, and we both did not win on election night. Both of us wound up getting 50.6% of the vote. And we will never, the two of us will never forget those days where, it's like every single day when the ballots came in, and not knowing whether or not we were going to win, and having only a couple hundred people deciding whether or not we were going to represent our areas or have a Democrat in that spot. And since both of us are in a swing district, we understand that our core values, they're very important, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we're getting people who are independent on our side and figuring out what we can do, because every single year that we run and we're in a minority, it is very much like the game of Risk. How many of you guys have ever played the game of Risk? Okay, and that's a game where you try to take over the world, and each person gets a certain number of armies. Now, when we first came in, the Senate was controlled by Republicans because we had a Democrat, Tim Sheldon, and another Democrat over in Bellevue who said, we don't want a state income tax. We're not going to agree with the Republicans on abortion and gay rights, but if you guys allow us to vote the way that we want to vote on those issues, when it comes to supporting businesses, when it comes to making sure that we don't have a state income tax and we can keep businesses in our state, we'll caucus with you guys. And that's how the Republicans were able to control the Senate. And when we came in, that's what happened. In the House, we had picked up quite a few seats. We were all working together, and there were 48 Republicans and 50 Democrats. And so what that means is that every single Democrat had to be on board in order for a bill to pass out of the House. And then if it was real bad, we all knew it was going to get stopped in the Senate. And unfortunately, a couple years later, we wound up losing a lot of seats. And right now, the Democrats are only a few votes away in both the House and the Senate from having a supermajority. And that's what Dan and I have had to live with these last 4 years. And so every single year that we're in such a steep minority, it's a lot like Risk, where the money that comes in, whoever's in power, they get more money. So just like in Risk, where if you have more countries, you get more armies. And unfortunately, the last couple years with our party, we have done this very bizarre thing where we decide to take our armies and turn them against each other and figure out which ones are the best armies, who's the best Republican. And what's happened is that we've lost every single year. And I don't know if you guys have ever played Risk, where if you have a fewer number of armies to go, and you've got 30 armies and you want to go fight China and they've got 50, I don't know anybody who would take their 30 armies, divide them in half, fight each other, and then take what's remaining and then go fight China. It doesn't work like that. The only way that we will be able to win is if we can put some of our differences aside within the party, and we go and instead of attacking each other, we attack the Democrats. Because right now that's what they're doing. And they're winning. And I hate to say it. And in the 26th district, we have a very unique thing where we're actually one of the most swing, I believe we are the most swing district. We have in the Senate, there is a very liberal Democrat named Emily Randall, and she won the Senate 4 years ago with 104 votes. And so that's really 52 independent people choosing to vote for her over the Republican at the time was Marty McClendon. And in our district, there was so much infighting 4 years ago that that's what happened. You know, the fighting turned people off, and she won. You know, as long as we're fighting each other, the Democrats win all day long, right? And so here we are now, 4 years later, and my seatmate is Representative Jesse Young, and he's currently running for the Senate. There was another Republican that jumped in the race, but he wasn't, you know, his voters pamphlet had a thumbs up sign, and he wasn't really a valid candidate. So together, their combined Republican vote was, I believe, 48.6%. And the Democrat Emily Randall, she got 51.4%. Okay. In his open seat is Spencer Hudgens, and I helped recruit him. He's the Republican candidate. He got 49.8%. But the Democrat got 50.2%. And when the margins are real close like that, you got to realize they're not all the outside dollars that come into our state. The way that our laws work is that you can have a billionaire like Tom Steyer, who's done this before, and pump in millions of dollars into our race. He doesn't even live in Washington State. Okay, so you can dump a whole bunch of money into our races. You don't have to live in our state, and it's completely legal. And that's what happens every year in the 26th district. And so they were only separated by 113 votes. In my race, I'm very, very blessed that I have a Democrat opponent, and I got 55% of the vote, and the Democrat got 5%. And so we can look at these numbers and come up with a lot of things. First of all, when the margins are that close, a ton of money is going into our district. There's going to be about $1 million of attack ads on Jesse Young, more likely. Because in the Senate races, there's only a couple races that are in play that they think that they can change, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. And in the House, there's about 5 races that are really key, that are going to get heavily hit. And one of those is with Spencer Hudgens. So I have kind of focused more on making sure that, because Jesse will be able to get a lot of Senate money going to help him. And in the House, I'm working very hard to make sure that Spencer can help get over the edge. There's a couple things that we have in our favor. One is truth, okay? And, we have the rising crime rates. We have seen all the failures that the majority party has done. But we have a lot of things going against us. One is that they have more money. They have more money to put into attack ads. And both Dan and I get them every year. And it's always the same stuff. I mean, I think that they probably take the same flyer and then they just put Dan Griffey and his face, and then they put my face. And we hate children, women, puppies, everything, right? Because we're Republicans and we're evil, right? But they're not real effective, I don't think, because I feel like both Dan and I remember that 50.6% at the very beginning. And both of us have done a very, very good job of reaching out to our constituents and letting them know who we are, where we stand, that we listen to them, that we're there for them, that we can help them with issues. But quite honestly, Spencer Hutchins is new, and so is his Democrat opponent. So people don't know him. And same thing with Travis Couture, right, in the 35th. We know him, but the average person that's sitting at home maybe doesn't know who he is. And so the Democrat Party will go and put all these horrible attack ads, and a lot of people believe it. And that's what we have going against us. We also have some of the national stuff going against us. And how many of you guys heard that the governor, after 900 days, is going to finally rescind his emergency powers? And it's so weird that it's going to be on Halloween. I don't know if it's because he's pretty scary, or if it's because that's when we're going to have the ballots in our hand. Okay? And I think that they're trying to work on the independent voters and to say, see, look the governor's powers are over. What are these Republicans talking about, right? What else is a coincidence? Oh, I don't know. Maybe that Joe Biden decided that he's going to waive people's student loans. Is it just a coincidence that it's going to happen right when the ballots are in their hands? No, I talked to my daughter about this. So she's 25 and she went to Wazoo, and she's got a lot of friends who are, that have got student loan debt, but they're Republicans. I mean, she has friends who quit their jobs because they didn't want to get a vaccine, and that, they're diehard, Second Amendment, Republicans. And she said, Mom, I hate to tell you, because I said, Cassie, they're trying to buy your vote. And she said, Mom, I hate to tell you, but I think it might be working on my friends. And that's the scary part. The other thing, too, is I think one of the other problems is with the Supreme Court decision, which I agree with. I do believe that should be a state's right. However, the problem is, and I had a Republican friend who told me this. She said the problem is that it's become so normal in our state that people believe that that is their constitutional right, and that it got taken away. And that the scare tactic is now, now they're going to take away your ability to marry somebody outside your race. And I've heard that on our debate, that's exactly what they said. They said, that's what's next. And I said, no, that's not what's next. But the thing is that if both Dan Griffey and I have to insert ourselves into the mindset of what the average person is thinking, right? And if the average person is thinking that we're taking away their constitutional rights, we have an issue, right? And we have to figure out how to relay that message and how to get them on our side. And I've been working with Representative Jenny Graham. She represents Spokane area on, what messaging has worked. The reality of it is, in our state, and I believe that it's not going to change much in our state. That we're in such a steep minority that even if we were able to gain control and take away every single abortive right in Washington State, the governor would veto that. And I just don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I'm just very realistic with the layout of the land in Washington State. What will change, however, and what will be the legislation that will be advanced is advancing whether or not people can have late-term abortions. And that is something that the average person is very much against. And that is where I try to pivot and focus the conversation to, because I'm pro-life, but I'm also very pro-reality. And I try to make it so that the legislation, if you look at the legislation that's come forward, they've tried to make it so that it is less safe, that you don't have to have any training to perform the abortive services, even up to birth. Because in Washington State it is illegal under certain circumstances to have abortive services up until birth. And a lot of people in our state do not know that, and that is the message that we're trying to get out. We're also trying to say, listen, I mean, I was 19 when I got pregnant, and I made the choice to keep my daughter. And that was one of the most difficult choices I've had to make. I mean, anybody who says raising a kid is easy when you're young and poor, I'm sorry, and all of us mama bears in here, it's tough. It's tough to live on your own regardless, let alone take care of a kid and not being able to afford to take care of diapers and stuff. I personally believe we need to make it easier for young women to keep their children and have support services available. Why are our taxpayer dollars paying for abortion services, but we're not helping those moms to help raise those children? And these are the things that we can get people on board with us. And so those are some of the things that I'm trying to work on. And me being in a very swing district, I do believe that that's one of the reasons why I've done so much better than my male counterparts in my district. Because I feel like I understand what women are going through, and that it's not an easy choice, and it's something to where our state overwhelmingly has supported it, and it's not something that I approve of, but we're in Washington State, and we're not in Idaho, so this is the lay of the land that we're working with, and we need to be respectful to all women, I believe, even if I totally disagree with them, because that's how we're able to move the mark and get people on our side and get people focused on crime and taxes. But right now, my biggest focus is, like I said before, helping Spencer get over the edge, because we need more Republicans in office so that we can make a difference. And until then, as long as we are in the steep minority that we're in, basically Dan and I are playing defense every single day, and we don't get to play offense. They have one horrible bill after the other that we have to sit there and fight. And until we can come together and become united and make it so that we're getting as many people in office that are Republicans as possible, until we can get a majority, we will continue to play defense. And we need to learn how to work together, and we can respectfully disagree. Dan and I disagree all the time. But at the end of the day, we're very respectful to each other, and we're friends. And we say, okay, well, I appreciate your opinion. Don't share it for that particular issue, but we have a bigger fish to fry, and that's called the Democrats. And that's what we need to do. So, yes, that's the big fish in our state. And that's the thing, is that we can get people on our side. And I also believe that as women, we have very unique abilities to be resourceful and have different circles that we talk to and have different friend groups. I believe that for me personally, I have a lot of words I have to get out every day, far more words than Dan Griffey does every day. I learned that. And so as women, though, that we have the ability to network and talk to other women and explain, why certain things are so bad. Why is the crime rising? We can blame the Republicans all we want, but we haven't been in power for a long time. And I think that's the other piece is that the Democrats, they create the problem and then they solve it, and then they say, oh, look, the Republicans try to correct them and work so that we can get more people in office. I see. But yes, okay, so I am happy to answer questions. I cannot see distance very well, so if you could call on people, that would be fantastic. Any questions?
Well, I have one comment about your daughter at college and her friends coming back to her and saying that they're really interested in getting her college debt relief. She should tell them that as soon as the election's over, they're going to find that it's unconstitutional for the president to do that. And they're not going to come up with the money.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get the money. It's all going for.
Oh, no, she knows. And she
Tell them that.
She does, but she's like, Mom, that they're struggling. And so when you have the government that comes in and says, because you guys have to realize that the Democrats created this problem. They're the ones that allow colleges to charge whatever they want for school, that there's not a true nexus to how many slots are available for philosophy or whatever and how many jobs are out there, that they don't have to make sure that you get a job for your degree, and that we're never fixing the problem. All the kids right now that are in school, they're not going to get any relief. And that's the thing, is that she knows that it's not fixing the problem. She's like, I know I'm gonna get paid taxes to pay for this, or you or my dad are going to. And I said, oh, absolutely. Exactly. And she's like, no, we had this conversation, and all her friends were talking about Social Security. She goes, I think that we're not gonna have Social Security because we're gonna get all this relief right when the ballots come, and that they're going to buy our votes, and it comes from somewhere, and that when we get to be older, I don't know if Social Security is going to be around. And I said, absolutely. And I think her friends get that a little bit, but at the same time, that they're not as political because they don't have me as a mom, right? And so they're hurting, and then they see the president helping them out. And I think that's the problem. That's the problem with the average person. And I remember how my brain worked before I got into politics. And the messages that you get from the media, it's hard to decipher what's real and what's not, right? And so I think that's the other piece, is that we don't have the media on our side. I think that it's getting better, but most mainstream media is not a friend of Republicans. And so the average person, if they watch the news and they're like, oh wow, he's trying to help people. And we have to fight that, right? And we also have to remind people, what about Chop and Chaz? A lot of people forgot about that.
I just was in Seattle this week. It was like an apocalypse.
Yeah, it is. It's disgusting. Yeah.
On the street,
Yep.
shooting up drugs,
Yep.
crazy walking around. It's nice.
Yep. Okay, any other questions?
One more? I have a question.
Yes, okay.
I have a statement.
Okay.
I have looked at the performance of the Republican voters, both in 2020 and 2018. And when you look at the fight between Randall and McClellan, he came out with 49.93% of the vote. Okay? When you look at the winners like yourself or Jesse, it's above 50%.
Yeah.
So if you look at all of the statistics, so let's say you look at House, the Senate, both the state as well as federal. In this particular state, the average percent of voters who consistently vote Republican for Republican candidates is 44%. That was in 2020. The average percent of voters who consistently vote for Republican candidates in 2018 was 45%. My point being, you can't win with Republican votes. You must have the independents and you must have the Democrats. Otherwise, you cannot win if you perform under 50%. So not only do we need to convince Republican voters to get out there and vote, but we also must convince and be able to articulate to our Democratic
I completely agree with you, and I think that one of the reasons why I get a lot of independent support and a lot of Democrat support is because, like when everything happened with the employment, when the governor shut everything down, we had the Employment Security Department and that whole debacle. You know, I allocated about 8 hours a day of taking care of people's claims and personally calling them. And I know that Dan Griffey does the same stuff. And so the thing is at the end of the day, I had a lot of Democrats that told me, they said, I don't agree with you on a lot of things, but you helped my wife out. And if without you, I don't know what our family would have done. And there's something to be said about that. And I work very hard, and so does Dan, at being respectful. And even though I disagree with my Democratic colleagues, I try my hardest to not blast them and be, you know what I'm saying, and say nasty things about them or anything like that, because I still have to work with them. And I think that you can sit there and go, okay, and point out the flaws in their argument, and do that in a way to where you can win over people without, you know, being super nasty and, you know, creating flyers that, you know, sit there and waste all my time saying nasty things about my opponent. I don't even talk about my opponent. It's like, what opponent, right? I'm here to serve you. You have a choice. If you choose that that's what you want to go, well, then that's your choice. But I think I'm a better person. And I think that that is the way that we should work as a party, and we can point out the flaws and what their belief system is and why it's not good for our state. But that's, to me, the best way that we can lead and not go at each other. The other thing, I know I need to go, but I do want to point out, in the primary numbers, if you look for the Senate race, between the Senate race and Spencer Hudgens and my race, there was about 450 people that voted for the Senate race that didn't vote for our race. Now you have to ask yourself, who are those 450 people? Okay. I have a funny feeling, because the Democrats all work together, that if they're voting for Emily Randall, they're going down the ticket and they're voting for the other Democrats. I think because our Republican Party in the 26th district is so divisive that they voted for Jesse and they skipped mine and Spencer's. And Spencer lost the primary by 113 votes. And so in my district, I'm asking the Republicans, you don't have to vote for me. I'm going to win regardless. Spencer's going to lose. So you need, if you're voting and you're a Republican, vote for Jesse and vote for Spencer. You don't have to vote for me, that's fine. But you just voting for the Senate race and skipping over Spencer's will make him lose. So as long as the Republican Party can come together, like otherwise, we're going to lose that seat. And I'm telling you, if we lose the Senate seat and that House seat, I do not want to serve with 2 Democrats. It's been hard enough serving with 1 in my district. Okay? And so we need to come together. We need to make sure that we're getting Republicans elected. That should be our #1 goal. and working to help getting independent voters on our side. That's how we're going to win.